We're coming to you live for the Build Forward Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan, simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Wednesday morning. One of the more annoying and disappointing losses for the Knicks in the regular season. Is it going to mean much? Probably not. Of course, you're still looking at the standings and want to get as high as you can with your seeding, but it probably won't mean a lot in that regard. However, there's just some things that happen in this game that are alarming. And if I'm going to sit here and tell you how that win over the Denver Nuggets, there was things that I saw from a team that looked like a championship team, then I can't ignore some of the things that happened last night, even without OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. Football stuff out there as always. We got some bad spring training news, if you want to look at it like that, but I do think that will end up okay as well. We'll get to all of it on this Wednesday. We're going to hit 40 degrees. Let's go. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I'm doing all right. And, yes, I would agree with you. Last night there was some red flags that certainly showed up, and Rick Carlisle's team seems to have the number of the Knicks for whatever reason. And this was one of these, wide-open shooting nights where everybody forgot to play defense. And let's face it, Jalen Brunson had an opportunity 3 different times at the end of this game to make a difference and maybe lead his team to victory, and he missed 3 shots. So, those 3 shots and somebody else, again, the trio that has been a big part of losing to these guys in the playoffs without Tyrese Halliburton, basically ran roughshod and had, I don't know how many wide open shots there were. That's the thing I like to me, the Knick defense has been good. And they go out and they get Jose Alvarado. He's supposed to be like this tenacious defensive player. This was his first game at home as a new New York Knick. And T.J. McConnell, kind of had his way with him last night. So I know he's new here. He's got to figure it all out. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about that. But I do worry about something that you keep bringing up. And it's so obvious that now I'm watching Karl-Anthony Towns like I was last year a little bit differently because of your take on the way that he's playing and the way that Mike Brown and he look like they're not getting along.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, and I don't think it's not getting along. It's just that I don't think how either one of them know how to deal with each other. And I do think that Jalen Brunson is a part of this as well. As you mentioned, Jalen Brunson had 3 separate times. I mean, do you see how many shots Jalen Brunson took last night? And I understand you're missing 2 starters, but one of them is Mitchell Robinson. But Jalen Brunson shouldn't be hero ball with this team, even with OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson out. I mean, there was a guy, and I already forget his name, that was covering Karl-Anthony Towns, who I looked up because I'd never heard of the guy, and apparently he was on the Knicks Summer League team, and he wasn't even good enough to cut it there. And this Indiana Pacers team that I'm not even sure, I mean, they might be tanking at this point, and they did have 3 starters still, have got these bums out there, and in critical moments, and I know he's got 5 fouls on him, and he's always got fouls on him, but these critical moments where you're like, this is when you use this man. You're not using this man. Like that's the thing, and I don't know if that's more. This is the
more
part
on Brunson, or is it more on Karl-Anthony Towns, or is it more on Mike Brown, the coach?
I think.
And by the way, they have won 9 out of their last 11.
But this is right. But here's one of these things that we talk about is you have to understand where the complaining is coming from. This is what happens when you have a team that fired a coach. You then prior to that made all these big trades to get to the NBA Finals and win it. And we are a starved fan base for a championship and even a finals appearance from the Knicks. So when we see things that look like major problems or maybe something that is a rash that could spread and hold them back from a championship, I want to talk about it. And I want to, and the good stuff, I understand the good stuff. But what I'm worried about is this team going to look like a team down the stretch in a critical game, or is it just going to be Jalen Brunson putting the team on his back? Because, and Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't, I don't even need him to be great any longer. But in a situation like last night, it was just so obvious that this was a night where he needed to be a factor offensively. And I need to know why he's not getting the ball in those situations. And when you ask, I don't know the answer to it. When you ask, is this Mike Brown? Is this Karl-Anthony Towns? Is this Jalen Brunson? I do think a little bit of each. But and then, of course, when he gets the ball, he commits his 6th foul and then ends up going out of the game.
Again.
Fouls out. But there's a disconnect there that I'm really concerned about. I really am. And this is not all on Towns. I'm being fair. It's not all on Towns. Like, I don't like him as a player, and I don't think he's a championship player. I've said it a million times. But there's something else going on there. There's something where Mike Brown is either looking at Karl-Anthony Towns and saying, I need to get the absolute minimum out of this guy. Like, it's almost as if he's saying, I'll be happy if Karl-Anthony Towns rebounds the way he rebounds and gives me a little more on the defensive end. That's all I need him to do. Just do that. And Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart and OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges and all these other guys that I have, they'll pick up the slack. They'll be well-rounded players. Mitchell Robinson will do what he's doing. You just rebound, stay out of the way. Occasionally we'll use you. Hit some threes when you can. He only had 6 3-point attempts last night. It was 1 of 6. But we're just going to kind of use you in fits and starts and spurts. And I don't think that works.
Last night should have been a 40-point game for him.
Easy.
That's the way it should have been, but it wasn't. And I think it's because of probably the lack of touches. And a lot of that has to do with his foul trouble and the situations that he puts himself in. But I do also know that when the Knicks are healthy and they have their 7, 8, 9-man rotation and it's all working, then this is when they played their best. And when you're missing a guy like OG last night, because of, I don't know, these maintenance days off, this whole thing. I thought we got rid of all this crap in the NBA, but I guess now we're gonna make sure that we have all these rest days. We're gonna make sure guys aren't playing back to backs, or if there's a little bit of a tweak here, a little bit of a tweak there, we're gonna use that as an excuse not to play. And I think that's part of it. Like when they have their full complement of players out there, I think that's when they're at their best. That's when they understand what they're doing on defense. They're communicating more, as we heard from Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson in their podcast. And last night was basically a night where defense was optional. And the amount of open shots that the Pacers had and the amount of open shots that the Pacers made ultimately came down to beating the Knicks. And the Pacers had won 13 games going into the game. Yeah. 13 games. No, they were terrible. 13-40.
Yeah, I mean, they were terrible. So I'm fine with the, when you have back-to-backs and the maintenance stuff. This is one of the reasons why Mike Brown was brought in as well, because the front office believed that some of the criticisms of Tom Thibodeau about playing the guys too many minutes and whatever, and believed that was a factor. So he was going to do this. I'm not surprised. But what bothers me is that the rest of the team, doesn't step up, doesn't play defense, takes this game for granted, thinks that they could just go out there without a couple of their important guys and show up and win. And, they turned it on late, and they end up getting to overtime. But then it's so now we're in a situation where you basically, you mailed in a game defensively, but then you had to end up using extra effort going into overtime. Now you're on a back-to-back. You got to travel to Philadelphia against a real team. It's just, this was stupid. This game was stupid. It was a stupid loss, a stupid game. The whole thing was stupid.
Yes, it was stupid. And you've been saying stupid a lot lately.
But this was stupid. I mean, it was. You shouldn't have lost that game. It was silly. And I hear Wally. I love Wally, but I hear Wally at the postgame. Oh, it was a rivalry game. I'm like, Wally, my ass rivalry game.
Well, you got to remember, he called out Halliburton a few years back, and he got in trouble for that. So he feels like he's a part of this rivalry with the Indiana Pacers. He doesn't even play.
But, and there is, when that team is actually that team's not the team that's a rival with the Knicks. They're nothing.
They should have been blasted by that.
They got 40 losses. They should have been killed last night.
Yes.
So I don't want to hear how they all of a sudden magically woke up because it was the Knicks. I mean, they got 3 guys that we ever even knew existed on this basketball team last night, and somehow they end up beating the Knicks. But that was a pathetic defensive effort. I mean, and I'll give Alvarado a pass for one night, but Brooklyn kid, tenacious, this and that. I mean, what a dud that was.
It was amazing.
Holy hell. God.
Man.
Yes.
It's just the let me see, the 3-point shot attempts, last night. So the Pacers were 18 for 45. They shot 50 of 97. And the Knicks were 14 of 46. And, that's obviously right there, the 3-point discrepancy. And the Knicks shot 50% last night, too. That's why the score was so high.
Yeah.
Because I think defense was optional.
So, I mean, I'm not a huge box score guy. I'm not a huge box score guy, but do me a favor.
Box score guy. Yeah, okay.
Just from you, and I don't know if you've looked this up yet.
Yeah.
But you watched the game.
Yep.
Right? What do you think the discrepancy number between Jalen Brunson's shots and the second guy is? Because I think it's got to be significant. Like it has to be.
I know
from just
it is,
watching
yeah.
the game. So just tell me how many shots Jalen Brunson took then to the next guy on the Knicks.
31
Okay.
to 17.
Yeah.
Karl-Anthony Towns took 17. And actually, part of those 31, a bunch of them came in overtime. And the fact of the matter is he missed his last three.
But that's the hero ball thing.
Yeah, okay.
That we don't
But
want.
those are shots that he normally makes.
Yeah, but we don't. But if he's not making them, maybe don't go back to the well the second and the third time.
Come on, he's the unquestioned leader of the
He
team.
does, yeah. But there's
great
certain.
player.
I agree, but he doesn't. There's so much talent on this team, and they're so good that he doesn't need to be doing that. I mean, this isn't like one great player and a bunch of misfits.
No, I know that.
So that's what's concerning to me, especially when he passes the ball, he's looking at Landry Shamet as opposed to looking at Karl-Anthony Towns, who's got a massive mismatch on him.
Yeah, it doesn't really make much sense to me. The coach should be talking about, this is the thing about the Super Bowl that just happened. Like, the offensive coordinator's got to talk to the quarterback. Look, they're blitzing. We're going to try to do this to help you manage the blitz. But if we don't do this, you got to be aware that the blitz may be coming. And then when the quarterback doesn't see it and throws an interception because he can't handle it, now who do you blame, the player or the coach? I guarantee you, Josh McDaniels was getting his quarterback prepared. This is the thing where the coach has got to say to Jalen Brunson, look, we have a mismatch. We have to use Karl-Anthony Towns in this scenario because he was the one that's supposed to be, he's making $60 million a year. Come on.
Yeah, and I know every situation isn't going to be for Towns, and there's going to be games against the Pistons, and hopefully they're in a series against the Pistons.
I can't. If they're in the series against the Pistons, and let's say it's the Eastern Conference Final, we're going to be hearing, all that kind of screaming and yelling and the flailing and the falling on the ground.
Right.
Because that guy Durant is going to knock his ass to the ground.
Well, this is my point. So in a situation like that, it's like, all right, we know that from a toughness factor and a big man factor that they're going to have an advantage physically. So maybe we don't think about him as a big offensive option in certain critical situations. But that's not last night. And every game is not the same.
Yeah, of course.
And this was a night where you got to use him. You have to. I mean, whatever.
Well, their defense sucked last night.
It was that's
that's the thing. That's the
they
first
mailed
thing.
it in. It was a feet-up game. They mailed it in.
Some guys didn't play.
They mailed this one in.
Right,
Thought that they could show up and win.
And two of their most important players didn't play. Two of their best defenders didn't play.
And
it shows up in the box score.
And they still should have won,
but they didn't
easily. And they didn't. Yeah, that's why this one. This is. I mean, ranking the losses, whatever. This is up there.
You're going to rank a loss?
No, I'm not. I just I'm just saying. I was about to say this is either 1, 2, or 3. And I don't even care. It was a bad one. It was a bad one.
Oh,
it was one of the worst ones. But then again, it was the one that we were watching.
We're not even going to talk about it.
Let's hope not. I don't want it to be some sort of reference point where I go back and be like, this all started when Karl-Anthony Towns wasn't getting the ball late in that Pacers game, and nothing's been the same since. I hope I'm not saying that.
No, you're not going to say that. Especially if they have their entire complement of players on the court. We're going through the rest period of the NBA. We got the NBA All-Star game coming up.
I know.
Guys
look ahead spots and all that.
Yeah, this is what's going on right now.
Yeah, well, that's why when you're playing a back-to-back and you got the home game and it's a team that's terrible, that you got to win this one.
Well, to me, like the Friday night game in Detroit, that was an ambush spot.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that, and a bunch of guys didn't play in that game.
That's right.
And then they come back against Boston. They show some toughness. They show some mettle. They win a game in Boston very convincingly. They were hitting their shots. And then last night, take a couple guys out of the lineup. They're not going to play. We're going to rest them, and we're not going to play defense. Yeah, this is the NBA season, man.
Yeah, and it is. But to be fair, we can't just toss away the losses that are concerning and then pump the team up when they have a win like they had against Denver. I mean, I'm going to point out these sort of deficiencies in some of these games and say that needs to be fixed. This is something that is alarming to me because that's what Leon Rose is thinking when he sees stuff like this. They need to get to the finals. That's what this is about. They need to get to the finals.
Like you hired the coach, just like Joe Brady up in Buffalo. You're supposed to now get one step further, two steps further, go win a championship. I still think that when the team is totally healthy and they have all their engines running and they add Jose Alvarado, who will be better. He's going to be better. I mean, he's probably all excited. He's got to fit into the system. He's got to understand what's going on. They may even make another move. This is where the buyout season comes now, and they could add another big man. But all I know is that we are knee deep in the middle of the season. They're one of the best teams in the league. They're probably, right now, I would say, given the record and everything else, where they sit, they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference. Then it's going to come down to, can they win on the floor in Detroit?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I said the other day, Jalen Brunson, you got to take advantage of him in his prime right now. He's so good. He's so amazing. And, yeah, I want the ball in his hands in critical moments. There's just certain situations. I don't want this team to be defined whether or not he's making all the shots or not, because they should be better than that.
I mean, his last three shots are shots that we've seen him make all the time.
No, but you know what I mean, because you're a big detractor of, the Carmelo Anthony type of way of doing things. And sometimes, like last night, when you're talking about almost double the shots of the next guy, they don't need to do that.
What's amazing to me is that I don't know if you remember these arguments way back when LeBron was still in his prime. And there were times late in games where he would pass the ball to the open guy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And everybody would be getting all over his ass for passing the ball and not taking the shot himself. And, he would look into the camera and go, I'm a basketball player. Guy's open. I'm going to give him the ball.
And then he made the pass in one of the more critical moments and had a different guy take the shot in what is probably his most defining moment of his career with the Kyrie Irving three-pointer against the Golden State Warriors in Game 7 of that series.
Right, which that goes against every argument about, I need the guy, my most important guy with the ball in his hands at the end. He's got to take the shot. If you want to play, and I'm not saying that he's always played team basketball, but if you want to play team basketball, that's sometimes you got to pass the ball to Steve Kerr, Michael Jordan, so he can hit a three. And how many times did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I know that Jalen has got a lot on his shoulders. I think he's really been accepting of the responsibility of being the leader of the team. It's his team, the whole thing, the whole NBA drama thing. And I appreciate everything he's done since he's got here. And I know for a fact that kid is such a good basketball player that things will settle down, and they'll have a loss like this every now and again. But when they're all healthy, I think they're going to be fine. I really do.
All right. No, I agree with you as well that they should be fine. There's certain things that if they're not.
31 shots is crazy, but the last three, I mean, I want him taking those shots. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I do too most of the time, but it's just in a situation like last night, I just felt like there was a better path to victory that they did not take. And that's not going to be the case every single night. It really isn't.
Especially when OG's out there and they got Bridges running up and down, and everybody's doing their thing. Like last night, again, the last few games, at least two guys have been missing from the initial rotation.
Yeah. And when we'll see, if it's everybody tonight or somebody sits tonight
do you
or
think
whatever.
There's a reason they didn't play Cat in Detroit?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
We don't need to get this guy punked in this situation. We need to keep his confidence up, maybe something like that.